All right, come on in. I want you to listen and listen closely, because tonight we are prying open a book that some people would rather you never knew existed. We're cracking open a file cabinet that's been locked in dust for over 100 years, a cabinet filled with stories that have been laughed at, brushed aside, and ultimately, damned.
Think about it for a second. What if everything we've been taught, our history, our science, is just the official story? A story built not on all the evidence, but only on the pieces that fit neatly together. What happens to the other pieces? The ones that don't fit, the ones that are jagged and strange and make no sense at all? Well, what do you do with those?
Well, for decades, one man made it his life's mission to find out. His name was Charles Fort, and he was a true original, a complete outsider. This guy spent years, his entire life really, hunched over in the dark corners of libraries, sifting through scientific journals and old newspapers, hunting for all the data that science had basically thrown in the trash, the facts that were excommunicated from the Church of Knowledge. He had a name for them. He called them the damned. And that right there, that quote, is the whole key to understanding his work. See, Fort didn't look at science as some pure, noble quest for truth. Not at all. He saw it as a new kind of religion, with its own priests and lab coats, its own sacred texts and journals, and a dogmatic belief system. And like any religion, it has its heresies, the facts that are so weird, so inconvenient that the establishment just has to label them as impossible and lock them away.
So let's open up the files. Let's look at some of this damned evidence for ourselves. And we're going to start with something that fundamentally violates everything you think you know about the world. Impossible things falling from a perfectly clear blue sky.
Let's go back. The day is March 3rd, 1876. You're in Bath County, Kentucky. It's a perfectly calm afternoon. The sky is empty. A farmer's wife is outside in her yard making soap. And then it begins. Something starts to fall all around her. It isn't rain. It isn't snow. It's something else entirely. An event so bizarre it would simply go down in history as the Kentucky phenomenon.
You heard me right. Fresh meat. For several minutes, out of a clear sky, flakes of what looked and smelled like raw meat rained down. Witnesses said some of the pieces were 3, even 4 inches square. I mean, can you imagine? The story, of course, went everywhere. And here's the kicker. 2 men who were either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish actually tasted the stuff. They reported it tasted like either mutton or venison.
So, naturally, the scientific community had to rush in and clean this mess up. You can't just have reports of meat falling from the sky. So a scientist swoops in and declares it's nostoc, a kind of cyanobacteria that swells up into a jelly when it rains. Case closed, right? Well, just one tiny problem. It wasn't raining. The sky was clear. But that didn't matter. That became the convenient answer. Because the other answer, the damn data, came from other scientists who put the samples under a microscope. And they didn't find algae, they found lung tissue. They found cartilage and muscle fibers. So you have 2 completely contradictory scientific findings. Which one do you think history remembers? Yeah, the easy one. The one that lets everybody sleep at night.
And don't think for a second this was a one-time thing. This kind of event is all over Fort's files. Let's jump back a few more decades to Amherst, Massachusetts, 1819. A late summer evening. We're not talking about some anonymous farmer here. The main witness is a professor, a respected man of his community, Rufus Dewey. And something very, very strange is about to fall into his yard.
So let's piece together the timeline. First, the family sees a brilliant light fall from the sky. Then, they hear a sound like an explosion. They probably don't know what to make of it, so they go to bed. The next morning, they walk out onto their property, and it's covered in this stuff. A strange, jelly-like substance with a smell so pungent, so foul, that it reportedly made people who got close to it vomit. And here we go again. You can almost set your watch to it. The machinery of dismissal kicks into high gear. Official explanation? Oh, it's just that nostoc algae again. Or maybe frog spawn. But this is why Charles Fort was so important. He looked at the details everyone else ignored. Eyewitnesses said the jelly was grayish-white. Nostoc is green. And frog spawn? It fell in August, which is completely the wrong time of year for it. The explanation just doesn't fit the facts. But it's a tidy explanation, and in the world of dogmatic science, tidy is better than true.
Okay, bizarre rains are one thing, but now we're going deeper. We're moving from the skies to the very bedrock of the Earth itself. We're talking about objects,
Man-made objects found inside solid rock. Rock that geologists swear is millions upon millions years old.
The story of humanity we're all taught is a nice, straight line. But what if it isn't? What if these impossible artifacts are clues? Whispers from a past so deep, so ancient, that our modern minds can't even begin to grasp it.
Just try to process what these things mean. A simple iron nail discovered in a Scottish quarry in 1844. Its head was sunk an inch deep inside a block of solid sandstone that's supposed to be from the Devonian period. Or how about this? In Dorchester, Massachusetts, workers blasting rock 15 feet underground have this bell-shaped metal vase come flying out of the explosion. It was beautifully made with silver flowers inlaid on it. How does that get inside solid rock? Or my favorite, a gold thread. A delicate, finely worked gold thread found by masons woven into the fabric of a stone block 8 feet underground. Our history books, our geology books, they all scream that these things are impossible. They cannot exist. And yet, they were found. They were documented. And so they were damned.
So, if these things aren't from some lost chapter of human history, where could they be from? Fort was willing to consider every possibility, no matter how wild. And that led him to a truly unsettling idea. Maybe we are not, and never have been, the only ones here.
On one bizarre morning in February of 1855, people all across southern Devon in England woke up to a mystery written in the snow. A single line of tracks, stretching for miles and miles, as if some thing had taken a very long, very strange walk in the middle of the night.
Now look, the details here are what makes your skin crawl. This wasn't just some animal trail. First, it was a single file line of hoofprints, as if made by something walking on two legs. This single track went on for over 100 miles, and this is the part that gets me, it went over obstacles, not around them. Straight up and over 14-foot walls, across the peaks of snow-covered roofs. It would disappear on one side of a frozen river and reappear on the other, with no break in the pattern. No animal we know can do that, not a single one. So you have to ask, what could?
So, when you're staring at a mountain of data like this, flesh falling from the sky, vases in solid rock, impossible footprints, you have two choices. You can ignore it all, or you can try to connect the dots. Charles Fort, being Charles Fort, came up with a grand, radical theory to try and explain the whole impossible mess.
He called it the Super Sargasso Sea. He imagined a place high up in our atmosphere, a kind of stationary ocean where gravity is weak or non-existent. And just like the Sargasso Sea in the Atlantic collects seaweed and wreckage, this Super Sargasso Sea collects things that are swept up from Earth, and maybe, just maybe, things that are dropped from elsewhere. And these things just float up there, caught in some kind of cosmic eddy, sometimes for hundreds of years.
Now think about it. If this place existed, it could be the source of everything. Those rains of frogs and fish and meat, just creatures that got swept up long ago, finally falling back to Earth. The strange gelatinous goo, organic matter decaying in this celestial sea. Those impossible artifacts, maybe they're just cosmic garbage, lost tools or refuse from travelers passing by that fell ages ago and were buried in sediment. It's a crazy idea for sure, but is it any crazier than the damn data itself?
But after collecting all these strange reports, Fort's mind went to an even darker place, a place far more disturbing than a rain of frogs or a weird footprint. He arrived at a final, philosophical speculation about what it means to be human.
Just let that line hang in the air. I think we're property. After a lifetime spent cataloging the bizarre and the unexplained, that was his deepest fear. That all our triumphs and tragedies, our art and our wars, our religions and our sciences, it's all just the behavior of livestock in a pen. That humanity doesn't own this world. No, we are owned.
And that is the ultimate damned question, isn't it? It's the one question science will never, ever allow itself to ask. Because if Fortis was even close to being right, if we are nothing more than property, then who or what is the owner?